Few things are for sure in this life, but this is. If we live for any substantial amount of time, we will encounter grief due to the loss of a loved one. Not something any of us ever want, and we all handle it differently. This podcast is to feature those who have done purposeful and meaningful things through their grief. These people featured on here are normal folks, just like you and me, who were thrust into a place they never wanted to be in their lives. A painful place. As they moved through their pain, they realized that something worthwhile, something for the greater good, could come out of the unthinkable. I'm sure that none of them would ever consider themselves to be a hero, but when I searched the definition of the word hero, I found this: a person who is admired or idolized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. And that fit. And so it's my privilege to bring you the remarkable stories of these heroes in grief. Hi, everyone. This is Tom, your host for the Heroes in Grief podcast, and the response has been incredible so far, and I want to thank you for that. It's getting out to people, and they're letting us know that it's helping them, and that is what it's all about. I want to make you aware of a way that you can support this podcast without having to spend 1 cent, and that is through affiliate marketing. I've set up affiliate marketing for online shopping. If you do online shopping, then I have links to all the major retailers, most of them anyways, and I can provide them for you so that when you buy online through those links, you'll help support the podcast through the percentages that we get. It doesn't cost you anything more. You just shop like you regularly would on the sites that you love. It's very easy. All you have to do is shop. And that's it. Just let me know the links to the places that you want to shop at, and I will provide the affiliate links so that you can do it. If you want more information on this, you can go to heroesingrief.com. It takes you to the Linktree page where a video explains it in a little more detail. But you can always email me at tom@heroesingrief.com, and I can answer questions for you. But you can support the podcast that way, and it's very easy, very simple, and it doesn't cost you a cent. Isn't that great? Thank you. Now here's today's episode.
Okay.
Nice to meet you again. Good to see you again.
Yes, you too.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, the conference, obviously, and Binghamton. I think I told you I was a Bills fan. I might have had my Bills stuff on, right?
You probably did. I think my husband said, yeah, he had a Bills shirt. I remember because I said, go Bills.
That's right.
I would have noticed that too.
Yeah, well, good so far, so that's all right. Yeah, go Bills.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. All right, so you're in Binghamton, New York. And,
correct.
Yep. So, Rosanne, Norris, why don't you tell us all about you and your story? How about that?
Well, okay, thank you. So I am a mother of 5 children, and my middle son, Lee, is the one in spirit. On January 2018, January 7th, he passed from an accidental carbon monoxide poisoning in his home.
Ooh.
Along with, his dog as well. But the dog actually, we found him 2 days later, and the dog was barely alive, but still alive. So, which was really puzzling to me because a small dog, and how could this be? But I really feel that his dog Buddy watched over him until we found him. So, so I'm on the journey of no parent ever wants to be on.
So sorry.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
Lee is his name.
Yes.
And, so how about that process when you went through that? All of us react to that in different ways, I think. And so what kind of happened with you in the course of that, like right afterwards and everything?
Well, I just was in a stupor, really. I don't know. I just wasn't even functioning. I was in such a dark place. And I think a lot of parents can relate to this. I mean, I didn't even want to be here. I didn't, I was just like, the pain was that incredibly horrific that I just thought, please just get me out of this life. But I wouldn't take action to do anything. But I just remember it being that deep and dark.
Yeah.
So
I heard someone say one time, and I've mentioned this before, they said, I wasn't going to take my life, but I didn't want to live.
Exactly.
That's pretty
Exactly.
powerful. Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
powerful, you know,
Yeah.
and, or you don't even know how, you know, it's tough.
You don't think you could survive it. You
Yeah.
just can't imagine. And here we are. I mean, it'll be 7 years in January. So,
Yeah.
and I feel surviving is the way to honor him.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is great.
So,
So what were the initial steps? Like, what did you start doing? Yeah, I mean, like myself, I started researching. I'm an online person, so I started looking online, and I found a group. You know, I know that you're a Kessler graduate as well, and I found
mhm.
David Kessler's group early on and things. So what were the steps that you took? How did you get out, like start taking the movement forward?
Yeah. Well, I did find a grief counselor early on, and he was very open. I think I was started with him 2 weeks after. Um, so I had that piece of it. I also am a journaler. So I spent a lot of time writing and just trying to comprehend what was happening. Where
Mm-hmm.
I started questioning, where is he? I just knew somehow that he wasn't like gone,
Mm-hmm.
as we say. But I really didn't know how to go about all of this. But I started reading, I was journaling, I was meeting with my grief counselor, who, by the way, passed at my 4-month mark, and which
Really?
kind of set me back quite a bit.
Hmm.
But as a result, I found helping parents heal, and I
Wow.
started online searches, and I know Lee led me to HPH.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Um, those who listen a lot know that we have a lot of HBH people on here. I'm part of that group, but I don't really seek it out. It's the way it works, you know. And thank you. You stepped in this week because I had a cancellation, so I appreciate it very
yeah.
much. Were you working at the time, or what were you doing then?
I was working, and so he passed in January 2018. I was planning on retiring at the end of May. I shortened it a bit and left in March. So
Mm-hmm. So you did go back for some time, or
I
what
did.
happened?
Yeah, I did. I fortunately had an office to myself. I could close the door. I had a very supportive staff that I still stay in touch with. But yeah, I just, yeah, I just speeded up the process, and I
Yeah.
needed to be alone, and I needed to do the work.
Yeah. Well, that was good. You had that opportunity to do
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
Those poor folks who, our society is so bad with it, 3 or 5 days off, and then you're supposed to come back to work. And
Right.
like, I was working for myself, so I was able to stop too. And I can't even imagine trying to function. Those poor folks. I mean,
Yeah,
something's got to be done about things like that. And
for
so
sure.
hopefully our awareness will help something like that. But you found, your counselor and things. And then, so you got led on a spiritual path eventually. Am I skipping too
Hmm.
far ahead, or was there
No.
something in between, or what
Um,
went forward with that?
no, I started doing the reading. I started listening to podcasts. I, you know, After helping parents heal, I heard about Sandra Champlain's "We Don't Die."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that was the first podcast I ever listened to.
Hmm.
And so I just did the deep dive. I was obsessed almost with reading and listening to these podcasts and just trying to figure it out. Yeah.
That's a good one. Sandra Champlain's is a good one.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, we tell people all the time, and it's shocking when you hear somebody who says that they haven't done anything since a grief event. And I had a young man I drive during the day, and I had a young man in my car, and he said his dad died 7 months ago. And I said, so what have you been doing to work with that? And he said, nothing. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you're stuck and you're 7 months down the
Yeah.
line. And
Yeah.
so just want to encourage everybody out there, reach out. There's so many resources available, and that's what we try to make available to you too, in so many different ways. No matter, it doesn't matter what portion of life you're in or what you know, I don't know how to put it, what part of society you're in or whatever. There's ways of, there's people out there, or there's resources out there for you, whatever it may be.
Right.
So reach out to us, please. That's why we're here too, to help that, and to make those things available to you. We can point you in the right direction. So just do it. You got to reach out, but that's a hard step for some people too, to take that step and admit that they need help. I screamed it right away. I knew it, but others are different about that, and I understand that. So you got involved with Helping Parents Heal, and you're now an affiliate leader for Helping Parents Heal, right? They have affiliate groups in areas, and there's one in the Buffalo area here too. And but you're in Binghamton, New York. So how long were you involved, and what happened with that? How'd you get involved as an affiliate leader?
I don't know. I just kept feeling the nudges to get involved, and I started in late 2019. And my very first meeting, I had 23 people walk in the door.
Wow.
And that was a little overwhelming, I'll say.
That's big.
But yeah. And then COVID happened. And of course, we were shut down. And I went to Zoom. And since after that, it kind of dropped off. And now I have maybe 5 to 10 people on average come each month for a meeting.
Yeah, that's a comfortable group, 5 to 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like the Buffalo one, I've never been to the Buffalo one because they have theirs on Wednesdays. And so I'm in the men's group on Wednesdays. The men's group is on Wednesdays. So I haven't been able to attend there, but I've been in touch with the leader there. But yeah, wow, 23. That is.
Yeah, that was a little scary for my first time. But
man,
maybe I scared some people away. No,
yeah.
COVID. Really.
How'd you put things out there to kind of advertise that, or how did people find out about it?
Like probably free advertising, like on television. I can't even remember back that far.
I imagine Helping Parents Heal put it out there too.
Well, that's true. That's true too. Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive.
There was a number of people that I actually knew whose children had passed that I had personally invited. I did. So.
So what goes on in a meeting? What do you do in a meeting for those who might be in your area?
Well, one thing we don't do is focus on, everybody gets to tell their story. Sharing is important in the beginning, but we don't focus on the grief and the pain, and we try to, I introduce topics that we can discuss openly, communication with our kids, maybe soul plans, all kinds of things. And it might, whether you can buy into some of these ideas or not, it's okay,
Yeah.
We might,
Let's expand on those ideas because they come through a lot in my program, of course, because of my beliefs in all of this too. We don't focus on it necessarily, but it certainly comes out all the time. So your journey led you to your beliefs of all of this now. So can you kind of help us along in that and tell us what that is really about? What your beliefs are and what caused them to kind of come to that?
Okay. I mean, I never considered the idea of having an agreement and soul plan with my son. That comes from, the idea that before we incarnate, that we have these plans for our lives to grow our spirit. And when I first encountered that idea, I thought, no way would I ever agree to that.
Yeah.
I was highly resistant. But as time went on and I really thought about it and dug into it more, it's the only thing that made sense to me. Otherwise, I thought his death, and we always put those air quotes, it would be random, senseless, and tragic. And I thought, so the idea that we had this plan, maybe, so I'm doing what I do today, you do what you do, that kind of thing is helping us grow, help others, expand our own beliefs and consciousness. So
I noticed that in Kessler's group early on in Tender Hearts there, a lot of people putting their things into purpose, and it causes an awakening in you a lot of times. And that's what's happened with me and with you, that we have the spiritual awakening, and you search for purpose. And what is the purpose in this? What is the purpose in your life? And come down to the basic two tenets, and that is to love and to serve others. And that is simply it. And that's what a lot of the, we're talking about the spiritual aspect and metaphysical things and all of this. And that's what our spirit guides, our spirit world tells us, that this is the purpose of our life here and to help us grow. And so then we encounter all these things in our life in this soul plan that you talked about to help our spirits grow. And we go through these tremendously difficult things as a human. And some, I've heard mediums or someone who's been in touch with the spirit world talk about that life is or the earth is a hard place to go. And we're actually celebrated when we come back from that because of what we put ourselves through. So this is advanced for some people. I know that. So I always put the caveat in there of those who are new to this or whatever, to just start looking into it and seek things out. We're not here to recruit anybody. That's not what we do. That's not part of this at all. We just are here to serve people. So we tell our stories so that you can investigate and find out where you're at with things, right? So, yeah. So did you start seeing signs and things, or what kind of drew you in? Like, how it goes. You start getting, meditating and all that, and you grow in it. So,
of course. Yeah. I saw a lot of signs in the beginning. But they, simple things like, that you question, like when I was packing up his house and I reached in a box and grabbed a CD. I can't even think of one of his favorite bands. And I started hearing, I heard something in my head, like, I don't even know where I'm going with this, but, and I thought, oh my gosh, you're losing your mind, but little by little, I learned to trust if I receive when I wrote my book, beLEEve, and, I started getting downloads that in the middle of the night, I would wake up with whole paragraphs in my head. And I thought, where's this coming from? And I knew it was from him. And so I started, noting those in my journal, and which eventually became a book. But,
you're the second guest in a row who's talked about downloads. I had Dolores Cruz on last time, and she said the same thing. So people, this is not staged. All right. We did not set this up. This is the way it goes. It is tremendous to see these signs. There's a book out. I got to find out what it is, but she just talks about all the signs and all the different ways that they can come, and a lot of people will always say, oh, that's just your imagination, or that's just that and everything else. But there's one thing that we all talk about, and we say, when it's a sign, and when it's a coincidence, or not. We don't believe in coincidences, but when it's a sign, or when it's just something you stumble upon. Let's put it that way. So you just know. I can't tell you how. You just know. So, right. Yeah. That's why it's kind of difficult too, but I love talking about this stuff. It's great. So the book, you mentioned the book, it's called beLEEve, and in the middle, it's a capital LEE for your son. That is beautiful. And it's a journey of loss, healing, and hope. And so you put that out the same year? Or no, Lee passed in 2017, right?
2018.
18.
I wrote it during COVID. I wrote it in 2020. But I definitely was getting nudges and pushed along. I would wake up in the morning, I would hear the word book. I just couldn't escape, prior to sitting down and actually writing it. I couldn't escape it. And one day I actually heard in the shower, it's time. And I knew exactly what that meant. It's time to open my journals and start to write. And I thought to myself, no. And I literally, in my head, not out loud, of course, I heard 15 minutes, set the timer. And that's when I began. I thought, okay. And so it came directly out of the journals I had written, and it's written in a journal format. So well, parents or anybody in grief could see, that the up and down day to day, one day you're just screaming, crying on the floor, and the next day you almost feel like a little glimmer of normalcy, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, those up and downs are crazy.
Yeah.
I was taking a very mild medication ever since Jeff passed, and I just went off of it recently. I felt like I was doing okay, and I did notice a change in my mood swings. Kind of, they were still controlled, but I just noticed, like, for some like inexplicable reason, I'd just be like, "Why am I feeling like this anxiousness, anxiety, or downness or whatever it is?" I just couldn't figure it out. And then I thought, oh yeah, that's right. I've gone off the meds. So that probably was leveling those off a little bit. I'm not here to advocate or not, but I mean, I just said, a little bit can do that for you. I had a counselor one time say to me, "Your cup is overflowing and this just gives you a little bigger cup." So it doesn't take everything away, but it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So the book is, you said, from your journals and things. So it goes in a progression. It goes through the story and forward. And is that the way it goes?
It does. It does. And, you can see it's raw and it's real. It's authentic. And you can see the pain that I'm experiencing in the beginning, but towards the end, it's 2 years. It's 2 years. And, you could start to see the hope that I was finding. So What
is that hope? What is that hope?
The hope is of knowing that I'll see him again. For one, he's alive and he's experiencing a wonderful life beyond this life. And, and that we are here to love and to, serve others. And that, I mean, I can almost say I live my life with joy knowing all this, and it's hard to say that with a parent that might be new to this journey, saying, you can find joy. You can, and it's okay.
Yeah. So you feel you have a purpose now, and do you think that Lee's passing is something to cause an awakening in you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, in the beginning I thought, I thought I was a good person. I know I was a good person, but, and I thought, what, you think, what did I do wrong or to deserve this? You think God's punishing you or something? And it's just, it's not that at all. But, things just happen. And if it's a soul plan, or even if it isn't, things happen, and it's what you do with it that counts. Right?
Yeah. What were your spiritual beliefs before this?
That's interesting. I was raised Catholic. I felt the concept of God was, I went to Catholic school, that it was restrictive. It was in a box, I believed there was an afterlife. I believed in God. I believed all that I was taught, but I just didn't feel like, and it was too limiting, I guess. And as I have explored, I believe that my concept of God is way outside of the box. I mean, there's just more that we weren't taught or shown. In fact, I've written several chapters for anthologies, and one that was recently published was called Excavating God, and it was about just about how my beliefs have opened up to
that is more. A great term. I love that term. That's great.
Thanks.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I was pretty much a salad bar Catholic. I was like pick and chose what I believed, but it's expanded quite a bit.
Yeah, it's common though. I was a Protestant, but and I became a Wesleyan pastor for several years, 15 years. And when I was pastoring too, the same thing. And I wasn't, this is back in the late 90s into the 2000s and through that time period. And I always had this, I came up with this thing and I just said, God is bigger. God is bigger. And I couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew something was wrong, in what I was experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean wrong that Christianity's wrong or whatever, I don't believe in the dogma of Christianity anymore, but, what I was experiencing, when I'd see things that just didn't make sense. And I just said, this power of God that we talk about and things, that if this power is so great that, people can overcome things and everything else, then they're either not manifesting it in their lives right, or, it's just something's wrong in how it's being given to them or shown to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw that time and time again. I'd see great supposed saints who were suffering and not being able to have a good perspective on things that were happening, or a godly perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I always was like, what's going on? No, this doesn't seem right, and that was what I started saying. God is bigger. God is bigger. God is bigger than all this. And even what I'm telling you, as I was preaching, I would say it. I'd say, God is bigger, much bigger. And, I couldn't put my finger on it, but then I went and I became a hospice spiritual care director for several years, and it broadened things for me. It opened it up a little bit more because I would see spiritual things happen amongst different religions and different belief systems and everything, and that helped a lot too. So, but then it kind of halted after that, and I lived another 15, 20 years before this happened, with Jeff. And so there is a progression, and I think I was being led along the path all along. And then, so then this happens with Jeff, and I have this big awakening. And I think a lot of what you're talking about with Christianity and everything, what I see with it is that a lot of things that I knew from the Bible, that I do know from the Bible and everything, I think that these are men trying to explain what we're experiencing now. A lot of that, the spirituality, and that Jesus was a high level soul, obviously. And so then there's several like that, Buddha, Jesus, all these other great spiritual leaders. I think that they were brought here to try and help people to understand what's supposed to be being done down here. And then men were trying to put into words all the things that we experience, which sometimes are impossible to do, obviously.
Right.
And when you look at books like Journey of Souls and, these things where they do past life regressions, and you're talking about the soul aspect. And if people go into that dimension and they're trying to explain something that you can't explain, you hear near-death experiences where they come back and they can't explain the colors. They were different colors. They can't explain the music.
Right.
They can't, all these things. So I think that's really what, they're trying to explain in the religious texts.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Awesome. So then you mentioned there too, you were part of a couple different anthologies and things too. Did they take portions of your book, or did you contribute different things in those?
No, I've been writing different chapters. I think I probably 8 or 9 anthologies with a chapter in. I wrote, I did the Excavating God that, like I said, that just came out. I just completed one and submitted it about signs and synchronicity. So I told some stories. I've done one about how laughter and music can help in grief, because I'll tell you, at first I thought I'm never going to laugh again.
Mm-hmm.
And music, I couldn't even listen to music. I thought it made me sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I actually laughed out loud, I was at the Lucille Ball Desi Arnaz Museum. Jamestown,
New York.
Yeah. And I stopped in front of a monitor that had the Vitamin, I can never say it, Vitamin Benjamin, a little clip from that. And I'm watching it and I laughed out loud and I looked around like I was guilty. Like, oh, I laughed. Oh my God. So I wrote a chapter about that and how one about how my dog came into my life, my current dog. So, just all different things.
Well, let's go there. All right. Why don't you tell us a few of your favorite, signs, synchronicities, experiences that you've had?
Well, since I mentioned the dog, I'll start there because I was in meditation one day, and it was January of 2020, before I started my book, but I was in meditation, and in my awareness, like a little schnauzer popped in and out. And I thought that was interesting. I'd never had one. Didn't know anybody that had one. So I thought, okay, this is interesting. And I went out and I told my husband, and he said, well, he said the day before he had been researching dogs, thinking he might surprise me in June, which for my birthday, with a puppy. And he said, I really like the miniature schnauzer. Well, I said,
Wow.
okay, we're connected. Okay, blah, whatever. It was interesting. Well, then I started looking. I Googled, miniature schnauzers just to see what they were about. And there was a breeder near me. And when I looked, I saw a whole bunch of puppies. I saw one little cute, kind of blurry face. And I thought, well, and about the third time I went back to look at this puppy's face, I realized this puppy was available on the day Lee passed, January 7th.
Wow.
Yeah. And we weren't ready to have a dog. We weren't really serious. Well, we went to see the puppy, and a few days later, the puppy came home. But what's interesting, when the puppy came home, you're thinking, okay, brand new puppy, he's going to be crying all night, just like a newborn, the separation and all this. He came in, he looked around, he sat down like he knew the place, and he slept all night from day one. And what I realized, which is kind of interesting, but a couple months before this, I had an experience while I was falling asleep. I felt a depression, something walking on my bed like an animal. And the first thing I thought was Ruby, our beagle that we had put down in 2011. And I don't know, now I'm going to introduce or bring up the reincarnation idea, because I really feel like this little dog, like our family dog, maybe came back to help us in our grieving process, reincarnated into this little dog. So I don't know, but
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about the spiritual world and animals, that they can observe things that we can't, for one thing, and that somehow the spirit world works through animals for us. Yeah. And makes a lot of sense with dogs, cats, other pets that express unconditional love to us, because we could experience that through them. Well,
but Ruby, and I didn't realize till today that Ruby, our family dog, Lee actually picked out and selected her because she was born on his birthday, September 7th. So there's that interesting.
So both dogs, September 7th?
Both dogs. September 7th was when Ruby was born, and that's Lee's birthday. And January 7th was his passing date, and when our current dog was available to come home with us. Come home. So it's,
there's stuff to that. There's no doubt about it.
No coincidences.
No, I always say that now for sure. There are no coincidences. Yeah. There are none.
Yeah.
Any others?
Well, I had mentioned Sandra Champlain. I went to the We Don't Die conference in 2019. I think it was January 2019. So I'm only a year out. I was sitting there, and her first speaker was Sonia Rinaldi. Now, if you probably know who she is, a Brazilian researcher. Yeah. She does ITC, so she brings in images and voices of people from the afterlife. She's been doing this for 40 years. Well, I sat there at her presentation and I thought, I don't know. This sounds way out there. This is too much for me. No. And then I thought to myself, okay, be open. This is the first time and it wasn't for parents. It was all kinds of walks of life. I thought, be open, just listen, because you don't know everything. You don't know anything. So I listened. Well, then I went home from the conference, which was lovely. And it was a few weeks later that Sandra said, make sure you look at the unknowns. There's some new unknowns. And these are, I guess, spirit images that come through without her doing her experiments. I open up the link to the unknowns, and the very first image I saw was, I had no doubt. It took my breath away. It was Lee. He looked like about 10 to 12 years old, and he had this, because she said there's this little redheaded boy, and Lee was a redhead. And I got this little picture. He had a little bowl cut that was popular back then. And I sent the image to Sonia. And she said, I believe this is your son, but who is the dog? So I look, and she circled it. And right behind Lee's head was a snout and two eyes that I hadn't noticed. And I don't. So I thought that was incredible, because Lee's dog, Buddy, had passed after him. And there is an image that looks exactly like my son and a dog.
You sent that to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make sure that it's either going to be, I'll put it on the promo material, or we'll have it in the show notes somehow or something where people can access that.
Yeah. So, and I was fortunate to be interviewed in Sonia's documentary that was done by Robert Lyne called Rinaldi. And of course, I must have been a little nervous because I forgot to mention Buddy. And I thought, wow, that was the strongest point right there. But, whatever.
Where can people find that documentary?
I think it was on Amazon Prime. I'm not sure if it's still there. I know it's on Tubi.
Yeah.
So, it's a great documentary. There's all kinds of speakers, but I was very honored to be, except for getting Buddy.
Well, I'm going to be looking that one up. I got that, so I'm going to check it out for sure. Okay. I want to see that. Right. I haven't seen that one yet. Yeah. That's good.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Awesome. So. That is great. Incredible. I love it. It's good for my soul right now. I'll tell you that much. Thank you. Yeah. So, when are your groups in Binghamton? So in case people are in that area, they know when and where to find you.
Well, we hold them monthly. First Saturday of every month. I can, anybody can contact me by email.
I'll have that in the show notes too, where they can get you. And do you have a Facebook group for that?
I do. I have a
chapter.
Binghamton.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
I'll get that on there too, for sure.
Yeah. And they can go through the website too, the Helping Parents Heal website.
Right. helpingparentsheal.org. So great. So did we cover everything, or anything you want to share otherwise?
I think we covered everything. I mean, when this stuff, you could just go on and on and on. And it's so much, but there's so much to it. Like you said, there's so much more to this life than we know. And boy, I can't wait. I mean, I'm not trying to get there, but I can't wait to find out, what it's all about.
I agree. Really. I do agree. Yeah. And it's, sometimes I take a break, because you listen to a lot of stuff and you kind of, I find myself getting kind of complacent with it, and I never want to do that. And so like if I'm listening to an audiobook or whatever, and I just kind of notice that it's background noise or something, or a podcast, I'll stop it and I'll just shake it off, or come back to it later when I'm like, wait, I need to absorb this, and there's something to receive here. So, I don't want it just to be nonsense, because it isn't. Right. Yeah. No. There's stuff being told to us and reasons why things happen. And, for instance, this I've been going through a rough couple of days, and this was very healing for me today. It helps, and it just brings that peace back that we do experience. I meditate as well, and that's what the spirit world wants us to experience that peace, and to know that we're on a proper path where we're going, and that there's purpose in what we're doing and all of this. And there is for you out there too, whoever you are. No matter how bad it seems right now, I always say if you're in very early grief, then just take care of yourself and get through those early times, because there's nothing you can really say to say, okay, we're going to help you fix this. You're not there to be fixed. Yeah. So you got to go through it, and that's what sucks the worst, but you do. Yeah. And so just get through that first, and then discover some of these things, and reach out, and take little bits, whatever works for you, and find it, because that's what we want most of all for everybody. Just there is peace and comfort in the future for you if you're at that spot. That's for sure.
Yeah, you just got to hold on.
You do, and sometimes it's for dear life.
Yeah,
no doubt.
And crying. I mean, tears are so healing. How many times have you heard people say to you, "I don't mean to make you cry"? I go, I've heard that so many times when I tear up, or, I'm not like sobbing in public, but, tear. And I'm like, oh no, you can't make me cry. And this might cleanse. It's how I release.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's love. Yep. It's love pouring out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tend, the way it works for me, I tear up, or whatever, or something happens. But I had it was, let's see, six months after Jeff passed or whatever. And some friends of mine, I was watching a band show that they were doing, and I just hugged the drummer afterwards, and I just exploded crying. He's a close friend, and it just was one of those moments for whatever reason, and I just exploded crying, and I said, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and I'm like, "No, it's all right. It feels good. It really feels good." Because I don't cry like that hard a lot, and so not anymore. So that's good. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah,
that's why I think it's important to find your tribe. That's what's so wonderful about helping parents heal, because you get each other. We get each other. And you can't do this alone, especially parents, but anybody in grief. It's not meant to be done alone.
Yeah. And there's no requirements, in beLEEve or anything else in helping parents heal. So I don't want people to get the wrong idea about that either. So everybody's accepted. So yeah. Excellent, Rosanne. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate you coming in, and it's great to get to know you a little bit better. And I don't know, and we're close enough. Maybe we'll have to meet up sometime and share some more stories.
I would love that. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Tom.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Heroes in Grief podcast. If you'd like access to any of the links that we discussed in today's show, you can find them in the show notes. There's also a link there to support the podcast if you care to. And there is an email link for me there. I'd love to hear from you and your ideas about the show, or what you thought about the show. You really can help out this podcast to get to more people if you subscribe, rate, or review it in whichever way your platform provides. Each week, Heroes in Grief is released on Sunday, so look for new episodes there. Thank you again for listening to Heroes in Grief.